James Allison's recent state of mind has found the majority of the F1 world in shock, as one of the most experienced technical figures in the sport has been dissatisfied with the work that's been going on at Mercedes. Although he knew he would inherit a mess that was left by Mike Elliott, who is not the single-handed creator of it, Allison didn't know the technical field in Mercedes is so shallow, therefore wanting to resign from his role. With this in mind, could we see yet another change of scene in Mercedes? And after Wolff's latest comments about a completely new technical team, is a rebuild on the way? It's safe to say that one of the brightest points in the past couple of years for Mercedes was the return of Mike Allison, as he went on to replace Mike Elliott, who has been dubbed the creator of the two worst cars that have ever exited Mercedes production. Be that as it may, Allison's burden was massive. He had to overturn an entirely scrapped car into a competitive challenger, and with so many mistakes as well as a poor understanding of the current regulation, combined with the pressure of the budget cap, the mission wasn't easy for him. This is why there have been talks about his potential departure prior to the 2025 season, as on one occasion Allison did hand his resignation to the team. However, it was denied due to the fact that Mercedes doesn't want anyone else to be leading them back into their glory days. While the W15 is far from competing in the top three, effectively being the fourth fastest team on the grid, the upgrades and improvements are there, but they are just not as big as the fans would have wanted them to be. But it seems like the fans are not the only ones that are dissatisfied with the development process. The team's board was also not happy with how slowly the W15 gained pace and performance, as well as the lack of correlation between the simulator and the on-track performance of the car. All of this prompted Allison to think about departure because, quite frankly, he did inherit a bit of a mess in Mercedes. With the departure of Loic Serra and D'Ambrosio, it did seem like Mercedes are a sinking ship, and Allison would have a massively painful job trying to restore the glory of the team. Many even dubbed Elliott to come back and teach the team a thing or two about the zero pod design that Red Bull have somehow adopted on the RB20. But with this scenario out of the picture right now, what needs to be answered is whether Allison's devotion is still there and whether he has what it takes to bring the top spot of the championship back to Mercedes. The most important thing to note here is that Allison does not act alone, neither did Elliott. The technical team they are surrounded with has massive importance and responsibility towards the car's performance as well. And if we are to judge by the departure of Gioacchino Vino, who was at the head of the aerodynamic department for the last 6 years, then you'd understand that the situation in Mercedes is far from perfect. There is either a genuine misunderstanding about what needs to be done, or just a plain misinterpretation of the rules that might be present for the next couple of years. And when 2026 comes, Mercedes will be going all in on the engine and car performance. Regardless of where things currently stand, Toto Wolff is seemingly willing to work with the brand new technical team at Mercedes, something that could be the best way to do business right now. With how every man has something to say for himself, and these men are high-profile members of Mercedes, the best way to bring the team back is to just start everything from scratch and move forward with the progress, one that is yet to be seen in the lengths that McLaren and Ferrari managed to achieve. It doesn't help that Red Bull has extracted the performance out of a design that Mercedes dubbed a failure, and Allison himself said that he would love to be called into the Milton Keynes factory so that he will be able to take a look into how they managed to pull it off. Even though Wolff's statements about working with a new team were briefly understood as not having Allison as the technical director, the man in which Mercedes put their faith, as he has been the leader of some of the most superb cars that the Silver Arrows produced, like the W11 and the W12. The fact that Mercedes denied his resignation goes to show that they still have a lot of faith in the Brit. However, a massive hurdle is now present in Formula One that has not been there when the Brackley-based squad was dominating the sport, and that, of course, is the budget cap. In the past, when some of the high-profile teams were in trouble, they could have spent as much money as they possibly could in order to bring the car back on track. Now, that amount is limited to 135 million, and for the next year, it will see another 5 million being cut down. For reference, Wolff admitted that Mercedes used to spend as much as $500 million on the car back in the day. But while all of this prompts a lot of talk about whether Mercedes is in the right place when it comes to their technical team, the truth remains as it is. Allison is now fully committed to bringing the W15 into the best possible operating window, and it seems that with the latest upgrades in Imola, the team understood some of the main weaknesses that limited the the operating window to a great extent. Obviously, the technical director of Mercedes stated that the plan is to bring upgrades to every single race until Silverstone because they're already way too far behind the top 3 teams. So there is absolutely no need to delay the upgrades even further, but the primary point is that they are now finally understanding the problem that they need to introduce upgrades to. When talking about this matter, Allison went on to say, "Well, I am not sure that I've noticed too much of the progress, but I think after a pretty uninspiring start, we are starting to get to grips with the car a little bit. I'd cautiously say that yes, we did see improvement with the latest package compared to the ones from the previous year, but it's a gradual thing. I don't think it's any more difficult for me than it is for all of us in the team, and it's always tough when a car isn't where you want it to be, and that is not an enjoyable situation. On the other hand, once you do start to get your head around it and start to move forward, then that becomes extremely pleasurable." The good news for Mercedes is that despite their heartbreaking departure from Hamilton at the end of the year, the 7-time world champion is fully committed to bringing the car in the right window before he leaves the team, because as he said, he owes it to them for the fruitful career they provided him. Yet the competition is very tight, and in the 3rd year of the current regulation era, there is only so much performance you can extract out of an upgrade package. However, Mercedes might be smart to turn their head, as Allison said, in one of their customer team's camps, McLaren for example. The Woking-based squad went from arguably one of the worst teams in 2023 to race winners and constant podium contenders, as well as a serious threat for the championship in a matter of 1 year. So the excuse of not being able to find a great deal of performance due to the limitations of the car has been thrown out of the window. This is something that George Russell believes in as well, and when talking about improving the pace on the W15 and setting a solid ground for the upcoming year as well, the young Brit said, "McLaren qualified P17 and P18 last year in Miami, and this year Lando Norris won the race, so it shows what is possible when a team gets things right, but right now we don't have things right. I don't really know what's wrong with the car, to be honest. You know, on a good day we're P5 and on a bad day we are P8. I think we have to accept that we are the 4th fastest team at the moment. The lap times do not lie, and the championship standings do not lie either. This is where we are." While it is excruciatingly painful for Mercedes to admit that they have dropped off massively, it's not the end of the world. With the upcoming upgrades for the W15 as well as the recommitment from Allison, it might very well be that the Silver Arrows would be competing with the rest of the grid in no time. However, with the technical team having their own trouble understanding the platform of the car, it's yet to be seen whether this is a genuine possibility. With this in mind, what do you think about Allison's alleged attempt to leave the team? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.